nationwide and worldwide. It is once again the Line to Gain show. Myself, Jerry Ostroski, the Big O, Sara Larson, up in 51-degree upstate New York. I'm so jealous. The guy down below, we'll get to him in a second. That's my dog. That's Jeremie Polin of the Blitz 1170 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Program director, also has his own show. They go from 3 to 6. Him and Colby Daniels also. I'll give you the history about us here in a little bit, but Sara, why don't you let us know what you're doing? Because you're like a wild person. I still don't understand your travel habits are legendary, but fill the
Yeah.
listeners in on it.
Yeah. So, well, I knew I was going to be heading up to New York for camp, and we ended up deciding to drive, and we left a day early. So, I just got here about 25-hour drive. So I'll be going to camp, this week coming up. We got a party next Saturday I'll be going to, and then I'll be driving my son over to college, and then back down to Florida by myself, that trip. So I've done it a lot. People think that I'm nuts. A lot of people think that I'm nuts, but I actually I enjoy driving, and usually put a book or a podcast on, and just listen to that. And then once in a while, when I am struggling a little bit, I'll turn on some music and just kind of go crazy with the music. So it's kind of uh it's one of those mental things that I
Right.
enjoy doing. So my son doesn't help at all. He just sits there and plays on his phone, or does his own thing with reading his own book. Although he did get kind of into the book that I was reading this time. So
Did he drive at all? Did he give you any
he
relief?
won't drive on I-95. No, no.
Oof. Now
He's not
Pop's
there yet.
legendary. Before Pop joined the world of married life and father life, he used to make some wild road trips back in the day as well. He used to go to a lot of OU football games. Plus, we'd make some treks to NASCAR races. The ride back from Bristol was legendary in the motorhome.
It was in the motorhome. If you also remember, I believe after the 2004 Sugar Bowl with OU and LSU, our showtime that we had on the air at the time started at 2. I drove 14 straight hours through and made it back after the Sugar Bowl that night to be back on the air with you that very next day.
That
If
is
you
right.
remember that. So yeah,
I do remember that.
I've had a few of those trips a time or two. We were joking off the air about you have all those spots that you stop every single time.
Yeah.
That you've got your routine. I've got one between here and Dallas where if it's late at night, I'll pull over and catch a few Z's. So I know
Yep.
exactly where I'm going every time.
Yeah. We knew exactly what rest stop we were gonna pull over and spend a couple of hours to rest. That's what most people think I'm crazy, is that I do it straight through. But I do stop at a rest stop and get a couple of hours. They do have police patrolling, so everyone's like, "Are you crazy?" They have police patrols and everything else. But yeah, I mean, it's. I was joking with you guys before we came live that it gets to the point where you've done the trip so many times that you end up going into the same gas stations over and over again in these random little towns, but you've been doing the trip so much that you know exactly where you need to stop. So we have our favorite gas stations on the way, and we don't get we don't have a what are they called, Bucky's,
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah.
And we don't have down in South Florida, we don't have Sheets. So these are places that we enjoy actually, finding and stopping at along the way. So, it was
What
a
was
fun trip.
what's the joint in either South Carolina or North Carolina? The big we buy like you can buy like a 12 pack, a bunch of firecrackers, a honey bun, get your gas tank
Oh,
filled up.
the rest stops that have like,
Yeah,
they're
the one rest stop,
huge.
but I can't remember. There's one
I can't think of the
that's
name.
known. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I
But
know what you're
anyway,
talking about. When we had a hurricane once, I was driving back from New York to go back down to Florida. And when you were on the way back, we were trying to find gas, and we couldn't. We started in South Carolina trying to find gas because we were told by the time you hit Florida, there was nothing. So I was trying to buy gas cans, and they were sold out starting in South Carolina. And we had went to one of those rest stops,
right.
huge. I mean, you could buy
South of the border.
anything.
There you go. Thank you, Daryl. Daryl,
Yeah,
south
it
of the
was
border is what it is. Yep.
crazy. So, yeah, but we had a lot of fun this trip. It was actually a pretty easy trip. Weather was great. A little cool. This morning it was 51 degrees. Right now it's like 68, which, it's a little bit, I can handle 68. But this morning I was freezing. So,
But
but yeah,
real fast before you leave, why don't you let people know there's going to be people going to training camp. You're going to go to training camp, so they'll
Yep.
get to possibly run into you there. Let everybody know where you're going to be. We got the Resurgence beer release coming up. That's a big deal. That we're excited about that. Let everybody know on that here before you got to cut out.
So I should be at camp tomorrow. If everything works out, I do have tickets. Someone gifted me one ticket for tomorrow, so I will be going tomorrow if everything works out. If not, I'll be there on Sunday, and then on the 10th, um, if my connection goes through on the 10th, hopefully I'm actually trying to get a friends and family pass. So if everything works out, that'll be amazing because you get to be down on the field and everything. So I'll be there those 2 days, and then like you said, the beer release, we just tweeted that out today, so everyone go in, retweet September 16th. It's at Resurgence Brewery. There'll be a live podcast there. We're calling it a megapod. It's going to be with everybody from Buffalo Rumblings that is able to attend. It'll be a lot of fun, and of course, a lot of drinking and Bills fans being silly. So it'll definitely be a good time. So.
All right, I'm going to ask you one question on the spot before you leave. I've already talked to Pop about this earlier today. I've gotten into a little bit of a Twitter argument today with some people.
Ooh.
Last night on the news, they were interviewing a local band director, marching band director at a local high school. Now, you got to understand something. Oklahoma's about football. Tulsa, Oklahoma's got like these humongous high school bands, like travel the world. Like they march over in England, they march in Ireland, they do the Thanksgiving Day stuff, the Rose Bowl parade. I mean, just sick bands, unbelievably talented. And the band director last night used a term that I had never heard before. He was talking about how his band members actually get into stretching, and they've started doing a weightlifting program and all this stuff to help with their conditioning in their performances. And he referred to the band members as musical athletes. So my question to you is a marching band member an athlete?
Have you ever seen FAMU or Bethune-Cookman?
I get that. I understand.
JSU?
I understand. I get that. But my point was, I dabble. I try to learn how to play guitar. Does that make me an athlete musician?
No, I don't think it does. But if some people don't think that cheerleading or gymnastics are sports either, or athletes either. I think that if you have to keep yourself in shape, or a race car driver,
well, getting in shape does not make you an athlete.
I don't know. I've never considered like a piccolo player an athlete.
Yeah. Well, is there a piccolo player? Is there a piccolo player in the marching band? I don't know.
Yeah. But, somebody here's and these people, I know these people. So I hate to I'm holding back. There's like so many punchlines, and I'm not going to them. But the person replied, he said, "Does executing a refined skill set in coordination with teammates while under physical duress qualify as an athlete?" And I wanted to so badly respond with, "No, that makes you a synchronized swimmer." But I did not.
So you wouldn't consider synchronized swimming? You wouldn't consider them athletes?
It is a sport, like rhythmic gymnastics is a sport, right? I believe that those are more arts than they are sports. But then again, this goes down the rabbit hole, and we've had this.
Oh,
this
of
is
course.
summertime. Yeah. This is summertime crutch radio, right? And Pop being in radio, we know every topic, right?
If you play cornhole, if you toss some horseshoes. I mean, if you roll the bones, are you considered an athlete?
Is a race car driver an athlete? 460.
So that was the main discussion back in the day. Was a race car driver an athlete?
Is a golfer an athlete? Right?
They say as much as you have to keep yourself in shape to be a race car driver, of course you are. But the same thing when it came to cheerleading. I was a cheerleader in high school, and everyone was like, "It's not a sport. It's not. You're not an athlete." And then we used to joke with the football team and basketball team. Okay, well go run the same same things that we do, and see if you're out of breath and what you're doing and how much you're in aches and pains the next day. So we can all joke about it. But
my point is this, and I don't want to be mean because I love marching bands.
Musical athletes,
they're awesome. I like it. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, the sick truth of the matter is if Big Boy that was carrying the tuba could drive, catch, and block the wide rush, that's what he would be doing. I'm just saying.
I get it. The only thing I will say is if you've seen, especially these HBCUs and them, carrying these, 30, 40-pound instruments and literally doing splits, like
Right.
it's pretty crazy,
I get it.
how much they have to be in shape to do what they're
maybe
doing.
maybe the next question is Paula Abdul an athlete?
Don't bury the headline, though. The headline is you actually showing some restraint not to go back after these people on social media. That's what I'm proud of you for. This is showing real growth on your part.
I am. I'm growing because as the antagonist side of me is it's more than 50%. So
I'm proud of you.
anyway, that was today's question. But Sarah, we appreciate you as always.
Be careful because you're going to get canceled, Jerry.
Well, that's why I kind of moved the camera back, because I got my "Make America Grateful Again" shirt on with the Grateful Dead logo, and if they
as long as it's with the Grateful Dead logo,
yeah,
and,
just if they read
we won't
the top
go into
part,
all that
again too. So anyway, hey, enjoy your family, enjoy your time up
all
there.
Right,
we'll
guys.
see you next week. And I'll have a
see you guys next week, and I will be set up next week, so I'll be able to be on a full show. But thank you, Jeremie, for
no problem.
coming on in. So all right, guys,
thanks for having me.
We'll see you later. Bye now. So anyway, as Sarah heads out, this is my man, as I said earlier, Jeremie Polin. He's the program director of the Blitz 1170 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pop and I's history goes way back. When did we start? 03? Or 04?
I think we first met in 2003 because I was still trying to catch on full time around that point, or maybe I just gone full time. But yeah, I don't think that we started the show until either end of 2003, like football season, September of 03, or then in 2004. But in that range.
Right. So Pop and I have known each other for quite a long time. We used to do a radio show together called The Big O Show. Pop was my producer. Pop then moved into program director, also has his own shows for a long, long time now. Has been a fixture in sports radio here in the city of Tulsa, does an awesome job. Consider him one of my best friends. And we've been wanting to do this for a while. Might even do it on a regular basis coming up. But just had the opportunity tonight to bring him on with Sarah. She's getting everything fixed up there, getting everything set for her time with her family. And we wanted to talk about what we love, and that's the NFL. And again, if you have some comments, you have some questions, put them in the comment section over there and let us know. We'll bring them up. But we were talking today about some things. And, the big topic in the football world obviously has been the running back situation. Now we have a situation where, and it's same thing. It involves a running back, and it's kind of morphed into, a little bit of a bickering contest. And now we have ownership involved. And this is something we don't see in Buffalo. We haven't seen this in Buffalo in quite a long time. I don't even think we had this when Ralph was there. But Jeremie, you brought up a good point today. Is we have this phenomenon lately in the league, especially with our better players. Jerry Jones doing it with Zach
Martin.
Zach Martin. We've got the issue in Indianapolis. Owner going after star player in the press, and it's something that you and I don't quite understand. You wanted to talk on this. What do we accomplish with this?
I don't really know. And I do think that we have to preface the entire conversation with the two examples that you just brought up. Are there two bigger wild card owners in the league than Jim freaking Irsay and his immaculate guitar collection?
Right.
And then also Jerry Jones.
Right.
I don't really take a whole lot of what Jerry Jones says as being truthful. It's the only owner that speaks to the media before the head coach and the players speak to the media after every single game. It's incredibly wild. But this past week, I think we've seen a few examples that I have a difficult time with. And you being a former player, I think you have a unique perspective on it. But we're in a weird place where you have anchors to your team, guys that you have brought up through your organization the way that things are supposed to be done. And all they've done for you is play their guts out. They've gone and they've set the bar to a certain level. They've been able to put their team on their shoulders and take them to a particular level. And yes, they get further along in their contract, and I'll use Zach Martin as the example. So Zach Martin's holding out. Zach Martin has been in the league, I believe, 8 years. Of the 8 years, he's been an all-pro 6 of them. In 2020, when your left tackle went down, you kicked Zach Martin to the outside to play left tackle, which resulted in him blowing up his knee and blowing up his hamstring, cost him his season. But he did that for the betterment of the team. And now we get in this scenario where you're going to, cast doubt on his character. And I know he's holding out, and I know most owners hate the fact when guys hold out, but it just seems like sometimes the answer is way more simple than what they make it out to be. I just don't understand why an owner would go on the media and start disparaging a member of your own team. We hear all the time about whether it's faith, family, and football in college, whether it's, hey, the family environment of the locker room is that safe space, we're together, but yet then you have ownership that goes out and wants to just throw that completely out the window with a couple of the better players in the entire league. Zach Martin's credentials, Jerry, you know this, you've played that spot before. That dude you can make an argument for him being one of the better offensive linemen that the Cowboys have ever had, and that's a mouthful.
Well, there isn't an argument. He is.
You're going to run him down. Right. I don't see what's beneficial about that.
Right, and you got the Jonathan Taylor situation in Indianapolis, and Irsay comes along and makes the comments like, long time after I'm dead, and Taylor's out of the league. This league is still going to be going on, and it's a microcosm of the problem that we have right now that goes all the way back to the running back contracts and goes back to what's going on in this league. And again, these 2 points solidify what I was talking about a couple weeks ago on this very show and you and I've talked about this, Jeremy, a million times, that the running back situation is not the owner's fault. It is the player's fault and the NFLPA's fault. They were the ones that allowed this to happen with the last collective bargaining agreement they have agreed to. This type of behavior now you're getting out of ownership. And believe me, it's not just those two, and they are wild cards, believe me. They are the outliers of the league, so to speak, as far as being eccentric, as far as just having unlimited amounts of throwaway cash, all those different things. The fact they both like to be the story, they like to be out in front of the franchise. But again, this just goes to show you the ownership right now believes and they know they have all the power in this league. And they don't have to go to Zach Martin and say, you know what, Zach, we understand what you're talking about. We really appreciate the fact that you went out of your way to help this franchise because you're loyal to us. And we're going to give you an extra couple, $3-4 million a year. That's all he wants.
That's all it takes.
That's all he wants.
You mean to tell me that you couldn't go to Zach Martin right now, and say, all right, we'll throw you an extra $4 million on top of your deal.
Right.
And I also understand the argument. If you're Zach Martin and you're his agent, why are you signing a 6-year deal? Like I completely understand the elements of his contract,
right.
but we're at such a rapid pace now with the pay scale compared to where guys play. And also what your output is, but it could be simply solved. And from the Cowboys' perspective is they haven't spent a lot of money in the offseason. They still got cap room. I know that they've got to sign guys like Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. But to hear Jerry Jones say, well, we're trying to save money to sign Micah Parsons. No, you're not. You've got plenty. You can manipulate the cap. You know how they manipulate the cap. They can make it work. You could get that deal done for $4 million and be in camp right now.
The money that Zach Martin wants is like second quarter beer sales at Cowboys Stadium for one game. Okay, it's that type of money to these guys, and what it does is, and this is. And I wanted to talk about this when you brought this up because it kind of flows into another thing that we have right now in sport, because you've got kind of and we all understand this right now in this country, there's a big divisive line in anything we talk about. There is one side or the other. There is no gray, right? And I will give the Aaron Rodgers situation as an example. Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, and basically the last 2 to 3 years has kind of gone off on a wild tangent, in my opinion, to get himself out of Green Bay, right? Aaron's kind of like he's like the girlfriend in the relationship. It's like, man, I don't want I don't want everybody to be mad at me because I broke up, but I really want to break up. So I'm going to do all these things so he'll break up with me first, right? And there's a reason why he did that. And there's a reason why that happens. And the point I'm trying to make is we continue to really there's a big group that continues to pound on professional athletes when they force trades or they want to hold out or they want to do things. And we're like, oh, they're not loyal. They don't love this team. They never loved us. And then you see situations like this and you understand why.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they had conversations before they bumped Zach Martin out to right tackle and made him feel like he would get taken care of at some point, or they made him feel special. They made him feel a huge part of the franchise. And then they do the Lucy and Charlie Brown and they pull the football away. And it's kind of an example, and like I said earlier, a microcosm of what's going on in this league, and it all goes back to 2 years ago, which is this horrible-ass collective bargaining agreement that they agreed to. Ownership right now has all the cards. Their franchises are growing in value at an exponential rate. All they had to do is share 0.5% more with the players. They're making money. The TV deals are huge. And this is an example of why we have to have good CBAs, because these dudes are billionaires for a reason. They keep their money, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to give it if they don't have to. And it's not just running backs. Jonathan Taylor happens to be a running back. You look at this Zach Martin situation as the premier guard in the league. He's in the same spot trying to get a little bit more money. So I just felt to talk about this, because it's like we really get hung up on players, and we really come down on players when they try to better their situation or move on and better their situation. And we tend to side with teams when, if you really look at these things, those teams are not doing these guys any favors either.
Especially when you're a guy like Zach, who has been nothing more than not just a model football player, but a model citizen. And I hate to bring that up, because a lot of times that has no factor in how your performance is on the field in many instances. But it'd be different if you want to speak your mind freely about someone that made a mistake. But Zach Martin has not made any mistakes other than feeling like, I've given everything that I have for this. Now it's also time for you to continue to reward me for what I've been able to give to you. And your point about ownership through the CBA, they have these little tricks through the negotiation where they'll be lenient this way, but then they'll pull back the rope. And you give them just a little inch, and every ownership group in the country is going to try to pull back a foot from that inch that you give them. So the CBA is a massive problem right now. There's no getting out of it anytime soon. And the best investment in the entire world right now is a professional football franchise, or maybe even an NBA franchise, with the way that they've been growing. So yeah, it's very weird. And I've never really understood the aspect of, when we get into these scenarios, why a lot of people are pro-owner in these instances. I've never been able to come to terms with the fact that it's pro-owner. What do I say on my show all the time? Like, I understand how the business works, but get your money while you can. And I have no problem with those guys getting their money. They should.
By the way, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you in the comments, as always. He's Jeremie Polin, program director for the Blitz 1170 in Tulsa, one of my guys, one of my good friends. And, of course, I'm the big O, Jerry Ostroski. We're talking NFL. Sara was on a little bit earlier. She'll be back next week, and we'll dive into some more Bills talk, especially with her being at training camp and getting to see some things, up close and personal. I kind of move that way a little bit because this affects the Bills a little bit. And my next topic is this. They put a poll out. They asked people who would be the most likely team to go from worst to first, right?
Whoa.
Who's the most likely team to go to worst from first? Now, I believe 61% of the people said, and this affects the Bills, the New York Jets. That was the pick. That was the team that was number one as far as going from worst to first, the team that could do it. The Jets in the AFC East with the Bills. The second team that was interesting, I thought, and, there's a lot of teams that got different votes. The top three teams, Jets number one, second team, the Cleveland Browns. And a lot of what was brought about the Browns was their ability to do what? play Joe Burrow well and beat Joe Burrow. He has had problems playing against the Browns. Third team was the Houston Texans, which I wasn't quite on with that as much as others. But the overwhelming favorite was the Jets. I've been on this show for quite a while now. I am an Aaron Rodgers fan. I love Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a quarterback. And the fact that he is there absolutely solidifies that football team. You've got a world-class defense, all right? You've got Aaron Rodgers now at quarterback. I think this – and, hey, we're going to find out right away, folks. Week 1 in MetLife, Bills, Jets, primetime game on what? Monday night, right? We're going to find out right off the bat. And just kind of get your feelings on who you think that team might be that could really rattle some cages this year.
You know me, I hate going with the easy pick, the low-hanging fruit, but I don't know if there's any other answer other than the Jets in this poll. Two of the teams, actually, I think you could throw all three of those in, notorious for having horrible management throughout the course of the history of the franchises. Right. So they're all wild cards. I think the Jets, the stat is, I think of the 63 years the Jets have been playing football, they've made the playoffs 14 times. So this is a 2-year window for them, correct? Rodgers restructured his deal. I'll get to that in a second because I have some thoughts on that. Rodgers restructured his deal for them to have a 2-year run to the Super Bowl. Question was asked the other day on my show, are the Jets a disappointment if they don't go to the Super Bowl this year? And I'm not ready to go that far yet. I just think given the course of the history in the franchise, I think making the playoffs in year 1 should probably you should feel really good about if that ends up happening. But they're clearly a contender with who they have coming in, the weapons that were already in place for Aaron coming in. Some of the best young skill players that we've seen come through the draft. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the Jets have actually made smart moves, not only through the draft, but also who they've been able to acquire. Right. I'm an Aaron fan. Aaron's an incredible football player. I think I got a little beaten down from Aaron over the last 3 or 4 years in Green Bay because all the Packers did was bend over backwards for that guy. They signed his friends. He went to bat for every single one of his friends. Hey, good for you. Not the best football decisions in the world by any means, and it got the Packers screwed up multiple times in cap scenarios with who they were playing. It also cost them in other areas that they could go out and build their team because they were trying to satisfy Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron, to me, is the type of guy that I don't know if you could ever satisfy completely. He just constantly finds something else. But with Aaron coming over, dude, the way that he's been talking, I think this is an Aaron Rodgers redemption tour. He is doing what the equivalent is of taking the Packers' noses and rubbing it right in the urine stain that's on the carpet, because he is hell-bent on showing them, because he has it in his mind that they gave up on him, which is weird. Whatever he's got to do to convince himself.
But that's that athlete. That's that athlete.
100%.
They have that ability, we learned about that, in the Michael Jordan documentary, right?
Yeah, he makes up stories, to motivate himself. So Aaron's making that up in his head. He's going to come back and play incredible football this year. It's just, does the organization continue to fall back into patterns that they've done in the past where they make a mistake or two? And if they do make a mistake, to me, it's always about how you overcome that. But personnel-wise, dude, they've set themselves up. That is that's quite the team that they've assembled. And I love Robert Saleh. I mean, I'm a Niner fan. You know that, Jerry. What he was able to build in San Francisco and come over, he's just a tough-minded coach. I think he's perfect for that city. And I think too, he's kind of the perfect oil water for Aaron Rodgers, not to let Aaron run completely all over the team.
Right. And, the thing about the Jets that I also like, and I do like Robert Saleh as well, I do think they have some guys in place, especially on defense. They've got some cats, right? They've got Sauce Gardner, even though he's a second-year guy, premier corner in the league right now. They've got some dudes to maybe where Aaron doesn't feel like he has to come in and be superhero leader. You know what I mean? Aaron kind of knows his place, I think, with this football team. Go over on the offense, get things righted. That let's get past this Zach Wilson debacle. And it's funny to me that the narrative that's coming out about how Zach Wilson's already so much better because he's hanging out.
Oh my gosh,
it's got a little bit grotesque. To
you could see that coming from a mile away. By the way,
you could see it coming from a mile away. But this kind of leads into, and the Browns are the Browns, right? I mean, I think the Browns have some good players. They've got a good offensive line. Watson still really hasn't played much football in how many years? I just don't really see that whole thing panning out. I really don't.
It's a big year for Stefanski, right? I mean,
right. Huge year for Stefanski. If he doesn't,
if they don't win, I don't see that there's a future for him that's there. There's so much that's placed on them, and they're kind of in that same question, to me anyway, that was asked to me earlier, which is, what do you call a disappointing year or a positive year for the Browns? And I think it's you take small steps and get back to the playoffs. Right. I do think that they're going to be better. I don't know how much better, but you mentioned the Jets having some cats. Cleveland's got some studs on defense. They can get after people, and I wouldn't be shocked at all that if they don't have a really good start to the season, and then it's about how they weather the storm.
So you throw this whole phenomenon in with the Jets being the team that could possibly go from last to first. You got the Dolphins, as always. You got Belichick trying to not set the record for the most losses in the league, but it probably will happen. But I do believe they will be much better this year. But I think Bill's on the hot seat. I think if Bill does not have a good year, he gets let go. I think Bill O'Brien takes over the Patriots. I love Bill O'Brien as a head coach. I think he's a tremendous head coach, and he fits right in and comes right in behind Belichick if that happens. Takes over the franchise. Very similar, both kind of fiery guys. No-nonsense dudes, but they automatically are becoming better on offense because he's there. This is, to me, the NFC East is the toughest division in football.
Doesn't it seem like this would be the type of year that it would be a spite year for Belichick? It's like Larry David opening the Spite store in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Latte Larry's, he opened it right next door to another coffee shop and called it a Spite store. I think Bill has the ability to, they may not win a ton of games, but you're going to be on your toes every single time that they play them. And they might have the ability to be creeping around 500. And we could get to a point in the season where you could say something like, they're only a couple of games out of a spot. There's nothing that's ever easy about playing Bill Belichick.
Matt also brought up the Falcons, a team that we heard about today in the press because their owner decided to come out and let the quarterback know that was their guy. He's also you pronounce it, is it Riddler? How do you pronounce his last name, Pop?
Yeah. Gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that right off the top.
As the sideline guy for the Tulsa
I know, and I've seen that dude play it 100 times, and now I'm blanking here. Right,
his roommate obviously is Bijan Robinson, so they're forming this bond. I think the Falcons
Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, Desmond Ritter. So I think that they definitely could make some noise. I think their coach is still a little bit of a wild card. He's a little out there.
Yeah,
he can't be any worse than the Eagles head coach.
That division is an interesting one, just based off of who they got. I got one that's getting a lot of run right now, and I know they have a rookie that's going to end up starting for them. But you start looking at everything that the Panthers have added for a team that decided to have a fire sale, including getting rid of Christian McCaffrey. For them to add what they already have on the defensive side, it all kind of depends on what Bryce does in year one. But that's a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they're not way better than what they were last year.
I think you're right, and I'm still a huge believer in Frank Reich. I know that his time in Indianapolis did not go well. I think a lot of that had to do with the revolving door at quarterback. He never had a chance to really develop a young quarterback like he's getting in Carolina. Then you got the Irsay situation, obviously. So I like the fact that Frank is back in Carolina. If you remember, when the Panthers and the Jaguars came into the league, they had the unprotected draft, Frank Reich was actually their first quarterback in Carolina. So he has history there. He has pride with the franchise. I'm not hung up on the size of the kid, Bryce Young. I'm not hung up on that. I think that the pro game is finally embracing the college game because they realize they're not going to draft. They don't have the ability to draft Drew Bledsoes anymore, right? You're not going to go out and draft Josh Allen, who's huge. You're going to have to take the smaller quarterback and work your system towards him. I mean, there's no more of a masterful coaching job than Nick Sirianni has done in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. I mean, I have had to eat crow on that thing for the last year and a half because I was like, has anybody watched this kid throw the football? There's no way he can play in the league. And now here he is going to a Super Bowl in his first year as a starter. So anyway, I just I like Frank Reich in Carolina. I think they do have a chance. Obviously, Tennessee, Houston, but I think you have to look at New York and everything else that goes with it. But just kind of staying in the news in the NFL and as we go along, and I, I do want to bring something up before I get to that. We're gonna get to the DC. We're gonna get to HCDC in a minute. Head coach Dan Campbell. All right, we're gonna get to head coach Dan Campbell in a second. But I was laughing, and this being predominantly a Bills podcast, I do want to get into some of the Bills because Bills Mafia was losing their mind yesterday, okay? And the reason why they were losing their mind was this. Yesterday's practice, I guess, the defense just ran all over the offense yesterday. Sacks, interceptions, pass breakups, offensive line couldn't block anybody. It was just an absolutely just horrid day for the Bills offense in practice. And people were going, I've got good friends on Twitter. I'm reading comments. This is ridiculous. You did nothing in the offseason to make the O-line better. You're not protecting Josh. You got to get Josh a second receiver. You got to do this. You're not utilizing Kincaid yet. All these different things. And I just chuckled. Do we know who runs the defense in Buffalo now?
Yeah, it's the head coach.
The head coach. Folks, as a person that's been to about 10 NFL training camps, whatever emphasis, whatever side of the ball the head coach, his emphasis is, they always get the benefit of the doubt. I would not doubt if yesterday McDermott and them got the offensive script.
Yeah.
And every time they lined up and the running back was on the left to run zone read to the right, why every time that play comes up, the middle linebacker who should be lined up in a 20, which, by the way, 20 is head up with the guard, is cheated over into a 30 or almost a 40 to the side of the ball where the ball's going to be run. And it happens all the time. And, Matt brings up he was off campus. That does not matter. It doesn't matter. The assistant coaches can set things up. Well. I'm just telling you, they have probably already put in blitzes to take away the offense's best plays. The point I'm trying to make is everybody needs to calm down, man. It's training camp. It's not a big deal. It will be okay.
I haven't been obviously living it like you guys have with Bills camp, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it day 6 of camp?
I think it was 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. So maybe today was day 6. So even better. It's early. And reports like this that come out, to your point, you don't really have a whole lot of context about what was happening behind the scenes. Like you said, maybe he did have the entire script. It was one of those days. And even those that don't live and breathe and die through the X's and O's, like you can pick up little things like this, even from shows like Hard Knocks that kind of show you that there are times in camp where they do things like that. We're like, all right, we're really going to stick it to the offense today. We're going to prove a point to them. And it happens all across the league, everywhere, and has for years. So I always try to just take a step back and ask, do I know the full context of what's going on before I have my freak out moment? Because you know me, man, I'm a big fan of, as much as I live and breathe and die with my favorite team, at this time of the year, to me, no news is good news, because typically the news when it comes out is bad, and no one wants bad news during this time. I mean, look at what the Dolphins just went through with the trade that they made for Jalen Ramsey. Now he's got a torn meniscus, who he just had to have a procedure. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. So no news is good news at this time, and that stuff will work itself out.
I did hear that segment today on your radio show with the doc, and amazingly enough, the job I have, they probably used our device to fix the meniscus, right?
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing as like when Russell Westbrook had that injury in when Beverly went knee to knee with him, and Russell chose to have a repair as opposed to a meniscectomy, which is taking it out when he was down in Oklahoma City. Yeah, I mean, he's not weight bearing for 6 to 8 weeks.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And then he starts moving into weight bearing stuff. So I actually believe he probably is out for the year, which benefits us obviously because Ramsey is a good player. But no, I think that the thing that's great with so many people creating content, we're doing it right now with Twitter. I mean, it's just like yesterday. Did you see the movie or the little clip that came out today where Joey Porter Jr., they're doing one-on-ones, and it's not, was it Pickett? I think it was Pickett.
It was Pickett.
They made like just dumb catch. It was unbelievable coverage. Made a dumb catch, and all of a sudden,
that's Pickens. Yeah,
Pickens.
Yeah,
and
Pickens.
then all of a sudden, there's my man Tomlin, right? Is up in Joey's grill, not being demonstrative or anything, but he's definitely giving him a message.
Yeah,
people are losing their mind.
It's coaching.
Porter's horrible. Coaches in his guys. That video could be interpreted 100 different ways, right? The way it should be interpreted is this: when the catch was made, he gave the ball to Joey Porter, and Joey Porter threw it back at him. I guarantee you, the message was, and I heard Eisen talking about this today, and I agreed with Eisen. The message was, son, the guy just made a circus catch on you. It was unbelievable coverage. And now you're going to give him an extra 15 because you threw the ball back at him?
Yeah, welcome to the league. Freaks are going to do things like that.
Right. Don't be dumb. Don't be stupid. And all of a sudden it's Porter can't play. Tomlin's mad at Porter. What's going on? Why are we not?
Again, the context. Has anyone been in the room with Joey Porter and how he accepts information? Is he the type of player that responds to things like that?
Right.
Maybe he needed an attention getter. Buford T. Justice said it best, right? And Smokey the Bandit. Every now and then you need one of those. And if that was his moment for the day, no one knows what he was doing the rest of the day. Maybe he had a few other things that he wasn't paying attention to. He just had a bad day. Context.
Right. And I think that, and one thing I will say, some of the clips that I have seen on Twitter that are easy to interpret are Dalton Kincaid, the rookie tight end from Utah that the Bills took in the first round, is an absolute freak.
You guys, when I was watching the draft and I kept seeing that, and it was kind of in that range where he's going to go at some point. Either someone's going to make a move to go way up because they just love the kid. Dallas was kind of in that mix as well. But when you guys landed Dalton Kincaid, the first thing that came to my mind was, the AFC has a legit problem now with Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo.
The Bills, you want to talk about options in the red zone now?
Oh, my gosh, man.
Unbelievable options in the red zone. And that was not a popular pick by a lot of fans, by the way.
Yeah, I never understood
they were
that.
wanting a pass rusher. They were wanting a big offensive lineman early. There was a group. Sara was on this train that she was hoping that Bijan Robinson would be around at that point. We were still trying to, the whole other debate of, do you take a running back high in the first round or do you wait? There's a big, contingent that felt that he was going to drop and fall, but that kid is a playmaker.
He's the type of kid that you'll look back on those arguments if you felt that way, and you'll get to a certain point in the season and be like, yeah, okay, I was wrong on that one.
Right.
He will make you forget quickly. That's what.
And the other thing about him is he reminds me of Kittle. He reminds me of Kelsey. He's got size to him. He's not a slow wideout playing tight end. He is a physical mismatch.
Yeah,
Don't know. I'm
absolutely.
sure his run blocking will get better. To be honest with you, I give rats if he blocked anybody, as long
That's
as
the
he's
type
running
of
routes
athlete
the
that
way. Yes,
you can get by with that on that. You
right,
know, and say, what I loved about it was just the flat out production that he had in college.
right.
And you know, Kittle kind of had to evolve a little bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think Kittle's receptions in college for Kittle. I mean, he played at Iowa, for crying out loud. So, you know, it's not like that they're setting the offensive world on fire, and that's just not what they do. But Kittle evolved into that pass catcher, but it was that physical toughness that ultimately was so beneficial to him being the player that he is today. And you already see that with Kincaid on top of being polished as a pass
Right.
catcher.
We're not worried about Purdy getting caught up in a gambling deal, are we?
Dude.
Dude, those Iowa State boys are crazy, man. I'm telling you.
Did you see the video of that today that was going around social media?
Yes.
So they caught him in a bar, like making a $500 bet, and you could even hear one of
Right.
his boys say, "Hey, just don't post this because that's
Yeah.
illegal." That's posted
Right.
in every locker room in the country. I don't get that. And then, you know, some Iowa players as well. But
You
that
know,
is a
Owen,
wild story.
as you know, Owen has begun the miserable journey of fall camp. So really all you do in fall camp is either practice, meet, eat, or lay in bed just contemplating your life, looking at social media. He sent me that deal today. Sent it to me and his brother, because obviously his brother's up in Des Moines in Iowa. But
How about his
man,
parents filling out false information for him?
I know, man.
To falsify that, I mean, at some point, you've got to take responsibility for yourself. But then the other part of me is like, now you kind of see a little bit of the environment that he grew up in as well. What are you thinking? It's
But you also
2023, man. They're
see
going to catch you.
you also see just how volatile this whole world, these two worlds of athletics
Yes.
and gambling colliding.
Oh yeah, we're worried about players though taking NIL deals
Right.
when the big problem with college athletics is conference realignment and gambling. That's
Well,
where the big problems are.
Jeremie, if we'd have had NIL earlier, they wouldn't have felt the need to gamble because they're trying to make money.
Oh,
No,
please.
they're taking their NIL money and
Yeah.
booking it.
Yeah, Deckers
know?
has got 23 bets on Iowa right now and 266 total. He's got some more NIL money in his pocket. He's going to go to about 46 on his
Right.
team and then jump that number up to about 800 overall.
This will be the largest growing segment in professional sports. PIs, private investigators, ex-FBI, ex-CIA, ex-state police that will be part of a task force that will continually monitor the casinos and the sports books. And you will have, you know, just like Tulsa has a tremendous cybersecurity degree now. Those kids will be hired by the leagues to do nothing but dig in records to see who's doing what.
Spawns a new industry, right?
Yep.
I mean, it happened. It happened when we saw the explosion of marijuana in this country. That, you know, the government doesn't want to touch the money. So what happens? Hey, we need someone to protect this and transport it. And they started hiring a whole bunch of former Rangers and SEALs to run these security details and security teams. It's a whole nother industry.
But what I liken it to, Pop, is, you know me. I'm a mafia aficionado. I love reading about the mafia. I watch movies. I do all that. And it's the old time. It's like the old time guys and the new guys. In the old days, you weren't allowed in the mafia to deal drugs.
Mm-hmm.
If you dealt drugs, they felt it was bad because it hurt the kids. And usually, if a guy got caught, they would flip him to stay out of prison. And so, usually, if you got caught selling drugs, they killed you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly. And we're seeing that same thing now with this gambling. The big bosses they're not going to compromise their money. They're not going to give FanDuel or whatever the $300, $400, $500 million they gave them. They're not giving it back. So they're going to do what they have to do to keep it right. And so if you're a player and think, I remember when the day before, like a couple days before Owen signed to Tulsa, he had a little deal going where they would go penny stocks, take that, they would get their money through playing one-day fantasy stuff. And I go, dude, it's over with. You can't do it no more. And he doesn't. But it's like, this is the life we live now. And but these guys, I can't believe they think they can get away with it, because I'm telling you, you're not. They're not going to jeopardize the millions and millions of dollars they're going to make off of this. They will crush you before they allow that to happen.
Well, even guys in the league, right? Look at the suspensions that have happened here over the last couple of weeks. I mean, the fact that Ridley was using his own name and his own profile, like, you are just begging to get caught.
This is not, they're adults. They can do what they want. Okay. Everybody knows you walk in the NFL locker room, the first thing you see next to the uniform code is the things you can't do. And there's a big sign that says no gambling. That simple. You can do nothing that might jeopardize the integrity of the game.
And I understand that some people might think that the hypocrisy, and I'm with you, there is a large amount of hypocrisy when the league starts taking big time advertising deals with this, and the millions of dollars that comes with it. But, there's this little thing called the integrity of the sport and integrity of what's happening in between not only the lines, but inside the locker room as well. And the minute that you have any questions about that, trust me, as a soccer fan, that I've seen stuff like that from in Europe, I mean, it starts messing with your head. I used to be a giant NBA fan. The Tim Donaghy stuff has absolutely flat out ruined me on NBA. I don't even view it the same way anymore. That's the last thing that I want, is to have something like that, mess with the integrity of the sport.
Because everybody joked for years, oh, the NBA's rigged, and then all of a sudden one of the top officials gets popped for gambling, and it's like,
I'll be damned, it is.
It is. It is. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. Again, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. This is the Line to Gain show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. He is Jeremie Poplin. He is the program director for the Blitz 1170 in Tulsa. He does sideline for University of Tulsa football. So he's down there close and personal with my son on game day, and does a great job with that. Pop and I have been friends a long time, did some sports radio shows together. Wanted to get him on to talk a little NFL. We like to talk serious stuff. We also like to talk funny stuff. And this one got me. Our man Dan Campbell, as McAfee calls him, HCDC, head coach Dan Campbell, he inquired, and I think this is pretty badass, because I've seen it live in Tiger Stadium at LSU when Johnny Manziel and the Aggies rolled out on the field, and that Tiger was in a cage right next to where they ran onto the field.
Mike the Tiger, baby.
Mike the Tiger. Dan Campbell wanted a lion. Not a stuffed lion, not a human in a lion suit, but a real lion on the sidelines of the Detroit Lions games. The owner was like, hell yeah, let's get a lion. Roger Goodell in the NFL, which doesn't like to have any fun, said no. My question to you, Pop, is, of all the teams in the league, if you had a live mascot, what would be the best one?
Well, I mean, it's hard to beat lion, bro. I mean, I've seen some TikTok videos. I think I've even shared some of those with you, with dudes just walking around with massive lions. And there's something that's pretty badass about just the visual image. And to see maybe a lion there on the sidelines just perched, having that big old Cuban link chain hanging off of its neck, just sitting there ready to.
But the male lion, but you know exactly what he'd be doing, because the male lions are pimps, right?
Yes, of course.
They lay in the shade and they let the female lions go out and do all the hunting. Right?
I get it, but it's just the mental image, that big old mane there, and
like they make a chain for them, like those turnover chains.
Exactly.
And instead of a lion on the chain, they could have like Dan Campbell's face on the chain.
No. You get a hood ornament off of a Mustang and just hang it around his neck, right? That's all you do. That's the perfect turnover chain. For that, you hang a hubcap off of that, or like a distributor cap or something. It's Detroit. Giant Ford logo. But I think the reason why the lion resonates so much is because it's actually Dan that spawned the idea. Like Dan, the joke that we use on my show is, when I think of football man, Dan Campbell would be next to football man in the dictionary. He is everything from doing up downs, right, with the team, to just pounding the amount of espresso that he does. I mean, he was an animal at A&M. He's been an animal everywhere that he's been, and he carries that same bravado over to him. So it's just the idea of spawning from Dan that makes that so good. But I know we talked about this off the air. Man, you guys in Buffalo, I think
Hey,
that might be the best one.
As two dudes that live in Big 12 country, and we, they're bringing Colorado back, obviously, and we all know Ralphie, right? Man, can you imagine? Dude, and this is my suggestion, though, right? And I know it's sacred to the Native Americans, but if they could find a white buffalo, right? Now listen to me. And so they got him in the tunnel, right? Nobody can see him. And then all of a sudden you hear they start playing Ted Nugent.
Oh, it's perfect.
The Great White Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
And they get the thing, and all of a sudden the buffalo comes out, man. He's white. Oh, dude. It'd be sick.
Yeah, but who are you going to get to wrangle that thing? I mean, like Ralphie, the new version of Ralphie is like a young version,
dude.
But
you could pay a couple dudes in Western New York a few cases of Labatt's every week; they would do it, no problem.
I'm sure
you wouldn't even have to give them money; just give them some beer.
I'm just worried about their health and safety at some point because I'm sure that they would be willing to do it. I'm just worried about the concussion that they would get from just being ragdolled all over the center of the field as they try to run out with the Buffalo Bills version of the Great White Buffalo. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a stunning visual image, and I think it would be perfect, and I'm all for it.
Could you see him going like to pro wrestling and taking Paul Waite and like putting him in some like pants that are all shredded up at the bottom and dressing him up like a real life giant and putting him on the sidelines of the Giants games, or he comes out and gets the crowd going?
There you go. That'd like El Gigante, like they used to have out there for different wrestling. Yeah, sir, we're going to need you to apply for this job, but you got to be at least 7'4" and weigh 500 pounds for you to qualify as a real giant.
And our boy Jerry Jones, we love to pick on him. He'd probably just dress up with some chaps and a cowboy hat, and he would be the guy was the best guy.
I mean, listen, I think he does that anyway. A few Johnny Walker Blues. I mean, I've seen some photos from Jerry in a restaurant before in a stall. Trust me, some chaps and a cowboy hat are not that far away from his reach.
Did you happen to listen to the Musers this morning and George tell the story of running into Jerry at the media dinner last night?
I did not. I know they have it. For those that don't know, Jerry, the one cool thing that Jerry does do for all media members, he opens up Nobu, the famous sushi restaurant there off the coast, and has a media welcome party there for all the Cowboys members of the media. And that thing easily costs like $1 million to put on.
Well, they were giddy. They were all giddy because the star of the night, like D.L. Hewley was in there. There was a couple others, but the guy that was there last night that they were going nuts about was Henry Winkler, the Fonz.
The Fonz.
So of course, Gordo was going crazy. But anyway, George was said that I guess George and Jerry had a thing at one time. They went somewhere and they did
in New Orleans together. At a Super Bowl. They shared conies together in the French Quarter.
And he said to Jerry, last night, "Hey George, I'm really happy we had that deal that one night."
That's fantastic.
But no, so anyway, I mean, obviously you could do the guy like they have now in the 49ers and put him in a barrel or whatever, and you got a Niner or whatever. Obviously Eagles and all that. There's tons of, you go to Auburn and see the Eagle fly out of the deal. I mean, what better team to have a real live mascot than the Bills?
Yeah, and listen, I love the league. There are times where I think the league is a tad bit too corporate, and anytime that they can kind of integrate some things that you're seeing happen on the college level, to kind of give it a little bit more of a natural feel to it. I think that they should do that, and vice versa as well. I think, some things that college are doing now, you should be doing what the NFL is doing. But if there's an opportunity for this, I mean, you got to be thinking big picture too. I'm thinking corporate partnerships, sponsor opportunities. Memphis, you brought up LSU. Memphis did the same thing. They had a plexiglass box that they pulled around on a trailer that they had a tiger that was thrown in that was pulled behind like a Ford F-150 around the stadium. It had flashing lights on the top of it with holes poked in the plexiglass so the thing could breathe.
I'm thinking of a grizzly bear in Chicago, dress some dude up like the brawny man, the brawny paper towel guy, and freaking, I mean, it's endless.
Yeah.
But hey, we're coming up on an hour. I want to leave one real quick question. I'll leave it with this. Give me your I don't want to say Super Bowl teams, but give me your 3-4 teams real quick. Obviously Chiefs,
Yes. Yep.
Give me your 3-4 teams you think are going to be there at the end this year.
So I'll run down by conference. We'll start first. In the NFC, I think it's clearly Philadelphia, San Francisco. I do think you have to include Dallas in that conversation. I think there are a few teams that are kind of there on the outside, knocking on the door, maybe getting a little bit closer, but those are the three that I would put there. And dude, the AFC is so loaded.
Yes.
So loaded. You could have teams that any given year would go on a Super Bowl run just because the depth of the conference itself doesn't make that possible. So I'll go, I think Buffalo's clearly in that category. Kansas City's in that group. My man Joey B is just a flat out stud. I think there's no denying that, and the amount of success that they had against Kansas City. And then from there, where do you start to slot some of those other teams?
Right.
Baltimore is back, and I think that they've made some intriguing moves. But that is an absolute bloodbath to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC.
I really believe that it's in the AFC. It's just give me about 5 teams, because it's going to take some luck. It's going to take
no doubt.
It's going to take some things to fall the right way.
And you're going to find out too. You're going to find out which front office has done the best in terms of not only how they've went about acquiring talent, but who they've identified during the draft. Which is why keeping a close eye on the Bengals, because they lose their 2 safeties, but yet they go and replace them through the draft with some really quality young, like good talent. It'll take some time for them to kind of get their feet underneath them, but now they have a cheaper option that's there in the center of their defense. But I think they've made some pretty good moves as of late.
I think one of the things,
even with a cheap owner.
Yeah, exactly. Very cheap owner. So yeah, I think that there's going to be some. I think one of the deals you got to look at too, especially with the Bills and stuff, is they're playing the NFC East this year in their cross conference games. They got to play the Eagles. They got to play the Cowboys. They got to play the Giants. So I think a lot of this AFC stuff, we can't get hung up on regular season wins and losses as much as get in the playoffs.
Get me healthy. Let's be healthy, and let's get to the playoffs. And it doesn't matter.
Get to the playoffs.
Wild card or anything else. And heck, dude, NFC East, Washington's going to be better just because of subtraction. Like you move that toxic, out from there. And I just think overall it's almost like a sigh of relief. So does that translate over onto the field? We'll see.
Ralph Wilson says there used to be a dude years ago who looked like Buffalo Bill and toured the country, saddled up on a bison and raced harness horses. I think that'd be awesome.
That's unbelievable.
Can we find him, Ralph?
Can we get that dude?
Can we get him, please?
You need to get him on the show.
Matt also said, don't forget about the Lions.
Yeah, again, they kind of fall into my New York category, which is there just hasn't been a whole lot of success there. And trust me, I love Dan Campbell. I love him, but there's a few holes in specific areas that I'm a little bit concerned about with them. But toughness and mental attitude, are they not considered to be one of the favorites in that division?
Right.
They have
They're
to be.
Still a little bit young. They're still a little bit young. And before I let you go, you're that confident about the Niners, even with the quarterback situation.
Listen, baby, I've tried to tell you this. Look, Shanahan's smarter than everyone, right? Just listen.
That's why we're my flat bill tonight for you.
Just listen. He'll tell you about how much smarter than he is than everyone else. And if there's a franchise that has proven that we do it this way, you talked about the running back market earlier. They were kind of at the beginning stages of this with how they handle running backs. But look at the dudes that they've been able to take to the Super Bowl with. If there's a franchise that shows we just need a guy to fit into our system, you don't necessarily have to have a superstar. Now, talk to me again when we get to January, and I'm crying over the fact that we have a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn during crunch time with that. But I have faith, because that's all I have, Jerry. That's all I have right now.
Faith is a good thing, Pop. Hey, again, before we get out of here, hit the like button, smash subscribe button. We'll be back next week, Wednesday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, right here on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostroski. Sara Larson was in earlier. She'll be back next week. He is Jeremie Poplin. program director, 1170 The Blitz in Tulsa. If you're in Tulsa or they got an app, get on the app, listen to them from 3 to 6. They do an awesome job on their show. You and Colby have really done a good job. I think the chemistry is great. And the other thing I like is, you know me, I like to talk sports, but I also like to talk stuff that does not have to do with sports. And,
it's a personality business, baby. I mean, look at what's happening with all of this new media, and I consider what you guys are doing new media too. I'm tuning in to hear you and to hear funny bits, different takes on things. But I want to see someone that has an over the top personality, and typically those people will end up succeeding in whatever venture that they do, whether it's just audio platform or whether it's video.
And by the way, if you had throwaway money, you could buy any movie or TV show prop you wanted.
Yeah.
Do you think I could buy Kelly LeBrock from Weird Science?
I mean,
really, she wasn't real. She was made. So therefore, in a technicality, it would be a show prop, right?
She was not real. You brought up getting canceled earlier. I think I'll probably be quiet right now. But yeah. And for those that are watching, by the way, just so you know, Tony Soprano's boat, the Stugatz, is up for sale right now. It's $299,000. So if you've got that kind of cash lying around and you want a piece of television show history, why not, man?
Last Wednesday night, Jackson was in town. So Jackson, Owen, and myself went to Louis, and Team Stugatz won the trivia contest.
That way.
We wrecked shop on all those schools.
My wife has never seen the series. We just finished season 2. We're getting ready to start season 3. So being able to experience it with her for the first time, because I think this is like 4th or 5th time through for me overall, and was there from the early stages. It's been a lot of fun to revisit.
Are we in the Kevin Finity stage?
Not quite yet. I think we're just now coming up on that.
Okay. All right, folks. We'll be back next week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Line to Gain right here, Buffalo Rumblings Network. As always, go Bills and one love.